Hello, everyone. Happy Friday. Stepping over a dog here. It's Stephanie with Big Dog Mom, and we are here for our weekly live stream. So thank you so much for joining. And if you're here on the replay, thank you so much for watching. So today we have a really fantastic topic that I know is a huge pain point for many of you in the stepping over a dog in the Big Dog Mom audience. So I wanted to address it here today, and hopefully it looks really dark to me. So if you can just let me know if this is really dark, and I'm not in proper light, you just let me know and I can try to shine a better light on. Hey Tracy, thanks for joining. So today's topic is about teaching a reliable recall. And that I know is a huge, I guess I would say not having a reliable recall is a huge pain point for many of you I know in my audience. I polled the Big Dog Mom community not that long ago, and many of you said that teaching your dog to come and come reliably was just one of the things that you really struggled with. So that is really what we are going to discuss today. So with that being said, I've got one other camera here that I'm trying to operate and do everything all at once here. So, okay. So teaching your dog to come. So you can see up there is a link for, this is just a list of my favorite dog training books. So I figured that, that downloadable would kind of go nicely with this topic. And so it's just bigdogmom.com/dog training books. And so I would highly recommend you download that if you would like just kind of my advice on, the best dog training and canine behavior books. And in the link to the blog post that goes along with this particular Facebook Live, I do have a number of resources that I highly recommend you check out if you want to kind of do a deeper dive into teaching a reliable recall with your dog. Okay. I have a few materials here. We've got a few steps to cover. As always, I try to keep these to about 20 to 30 minutes. So with that being said, okay, so I gave you the link. The link to the blog post is in the description of this video. And we are just going to just kind of get right into it. So the first step, so hey Faye, thank you so much for joining. So what I want to say really quick on the outset, teaching your dog to come. So there are, as I mentioned in the blog post, there are a number of methods that you can use to teach your dog to come. Of course, this camera just shut off, which is always lovely. So we are going to, I apologize, sorry, hang on. All right, I think we're good now. So, sorry about that. So what I want to say about teaching your dog to come is that, like, as I said, there's a number of methods that you can use in order to teach your dog to come. I learned by basically, having two people on either end of a long lead and then, saying, so-and-so, come, Junior, come, Fido, come. And then kind of jerking the leash a little bit to get the dog, to look in your direction and then come. So that was more of a forceful method in terms of teaching a dog to come. That's not what we are going to be talking about today, but that is one method that is used. Another method is just simply to call your dog to come, having them on a leash, making kissy sounds, doing like the little dance and trying to be super excited. And so your dog wants to come. And so that's typically how we would train puppies. And I mentioned in the blog post a video that I watched about, a couple, a man and a woman and a dog trainer that were teaching this little puppy to come. And what I saw as really, I think, the biggest opportunity and really the downside to the way that they were teaching it, and some of the parts about the dog's body language that I think all of the humans were completely oblivious to. So what I am going to show you today is a classical conditioning type method for teaching a dog to come. And so this method does not rely on and is not dependent on, is not focused on the dog's behavior. It is simply a pairing of a sound So whatever you want to use for your recall. So I'm going to show you a method using a whistle, and I'll explain that in a minute. A whistle, or you can simply just say, so-and-so come. And it's the way that you say it that you want to have a very specific way that you say it each and every time. In other words, if I say, Junior, come here, that's not the same as me saying, Junior, come. So you have to be very specific and pick what you want your recall to be. And so that's really the first step. I will tell you, I'm going to use a whistle. The dogs have never heard this whistle before. So what I wanted to show you was like a genuine, this is how you start and this is how you progress. I'm assuming they are going to do something when they hear the whistle. And as I said, they've never heard it before because I just bought the whistle. But I wanted to show you, so if you attempt this at home, you may see a similar reaction in your dogs, and then we can kind of troubleshoot how to handle if they just don't pay attention, which my dogs are both laying here sleeping, so there's a high possibility that they won't even get up when I do it. So we will see. Okay, so are there any questions? And then I would just invite you guys, if this is something that you are struggling with, let me know in the comments, and any questions that you have, I would love to hear those too, because let's try to use this as really truly a workshop. I mean, it's going to be a demo because I'm going to show you just the few steps that are involved in this kind of classical method of training the word come, or a recall, a reliable recall. But if you have any questions, definitely pop those in the comments. So again, the first step is pick a reliable word or sound. And we today are going to show using a whistle. Okay. So the second step is treats. So it's not really a step, but I wanted to point it out. So treats. This is the best thing to use for something like this, in my opinion, is a larger size, softish treat that is like, whoa, I can't believe my mom just gave me that treat. So that's the whole, that's the meaning that I want it to have for my dogs. That's the reaction that I want my dogs to have when they see these treats hit the floor. So it would be something that they don't experience any other time, because generally I'm handing them treats. And in a lot of training and a lot of the stuff that we do with dog training, it's tiny treats given in succession. So if you end up taking my nail training course about cutting dog nails, we do use teeny tiny treats, and we use them in succession. So that is one of the things that in parts of the training, that's what you'll do. And in lots of other situations, it's kind of a jackpot of treats where you do tiny, soft treats given in succession, and it's like a jackpot to the dog. In this method, I would just use larger size, and I'm going to show you what I have. So I bought these, not partial to the brand or anything, but I bought these because these are just freeze-dried beef liver. Dogs haven't had it before, so I thought, well, they've had freeze-dried beef liver, not this particular kind, so I figured I'd give them something new. And then I also dehydrated beef liver. So this is dehydrated. It's like seriously crack cocaine for dogs, but I dehydrated this yesterday from raw, fresh liver. So that's just what these look like. And I would split, say, this size piece into like 4. And so I have a treat pouch that I am using right here. So I just have all of my treats cut into smaller, well, sort of big chunks. Hopefully you can see that. So there's one. So that's the freeze-dried liver, and then the dehydrated liver, just in smallish chunks. Now, ideally, they would make a sound when they hit the floor, because I actually moved the carpet, so it would trigger the dog so when they are going to hear the whistle, they're also going to see, hopefully, because they're big enough, the treats hit the floor. And so that's what we're going to do. And then the other point that I will make really quick is that just for the purposes of this, I'm doing the dogs together, mostly because everybody wants to see both dogs. I would recommend making sure you train your dogs separately, if you have multiple dogs, and you can also train them together. And we talked about that when we talked about the front door manners. And so I think there's a lot of value in playing off the strengths of one dog, taking advantage of good behavior in one dog to help another. And in this situation, I think teaching come would work well with two dogs because, say, one gets it and the other one's curious about what's happening. So I'm going to try to use that to my advantage with this. And then I also wanted to show you really quick. So a couple of options. So as I said, you're going to pick your recall word. And the dogs now, like if I were to say very loudly, if I were to say, Junior, Sully, come, like really loud and excited, that would perk them up. Now, they don't have a 100% reliable recall. In other words, if they're chasing a rabbit and I did that, they would not turn around and come to me. My hope and prayer is that now by instituting the whistle, that I will have a much more, and doing this, this specific method I'm going to show you every day, multiple times a day, really working on pairing the sound of the whistle with like amazing things like, oh, I need to go to mom because something amazing is happening. So I have not been great at that. You know, I teach come in terms of they get treats when they come, but I'm hoping that the whistle will actually work better for this. So I have a couple of different types of whistles. So you could just use like a plain whistle. This is an actual dog whistle that I bought the other day because it's got a cool loop here that I can just stick with my treat bag. And so the whistle is always with the treat bag was my thought process. So I don't know, you decide what works best for you, but I think having a distinctive sound might work really well. And the other thing I will mention is there is a link to Pamela Dennison actually has a training on using a whistle for recall, which I have not seen. So I can't really testify to exactly what's in there and whether that would be helpful. But my guess is, because Pamela's amazing, it probably is quite helpful. So I may end up, trying to get that if I can't kind of get them working with just this method and my own kind of, knowledge of how to do it. Okay. So now that we're 12 minutes in, we're going to get to it. Okay. So the third step, and any questions on any of that was just kind of some setup here. Okay. So now what we're going to do, and as I talked about in the blog post, and hopefully you guys can see this, is the background like so dark? I don't know why. It is just like really dark to me and I have no way to light it up. So here, we're going to let's try to do that. Let's see if that's better. That might be a little better. Okay. So, all right. So now what I'm going to do is I've got a microphone on. I'm going to walk to kind of the middle of the floor so everybody can see me. And then I am going to blow the whistle and hopefully the dogs will see me toss some treats on the ground and they'll get up and come get the treats. And then we're going to do it a couple of more times. So the idea with this step is simply that I'm not really moving too much. The dogs aren't really having to come to me. They're just simply hearing the sound of the whistle and getting treats. So, okay, so we're going to start and let's see what happens. And no laughing. You guys probably, okay, so the dogs are both, hey. So I am going to just kind of get their attention because Junior literally is like fast asleep. Okay, so now and if it's really loud, I don't know what to expect with the microphone right here, but we're going to try. Okay, so the other thing is, so you can kind of see the dogs now have realized I have a treat pouch, which is not ideal. So you know what? I'm going to actually put it on my back pocket so that it's not like they're staring at the treat pouch, if that makes sense. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm just simply going to blow the whistle. So I just dropped 2 treats. Junior's quite lazy. Now he realized it's liver. So now he's very excited about the treat on the ground. And so Sully's kind of staring at me. So ideally we would just kind of get them so that they're not kind of staring at me. But for right now, I actually think it's okay because now they're sort of paying attention to what I'm doing. So Sully, if you saw that, so he stood there and stared at the treat, but he didn't go get it. So what he's probably doing is thinking, I need to release him to go get the treat. So I may need to actually work on that, because generally speaking, if something hits the floor, and I didn't consider it till just now, until I saw what he just did, but that's what he was doing. He was waiting for me to say, okay, which I don't really want to do in this method. It really is just simply the treat, the sound of the whistle and the treat hitting the floor. So I'm going to do it a few more times, and hopefully you guys can see this and make some sense of what I'm doing. So Junior is totally all in because he sees the treats. Sally? So I just want to get Sal's attention here. Well, you're going to try it again. So I kicked that one over to Sully only because he seems reluctant to actually grab it. Okay, so I'm going to step a little bit away, and I'm going to do it again. Okay. Yeah, Sully, he's very, he's waiting for me to kind of release him, which I may need to think about how to kind of get him to say, it's okay, take it. But it's working. So I don't know if you can kind of see him. So now they're kind of realizing, so mom's got the whistle and she's also handing out treats. So I'm going to do it just a couple more times, and then we can take some questions, and then we're going to move on to the next step. And this literally is as complicated as it gets, because all you're doing is you're pairing your whistle with a bunch of treats hitting the floor. Okay? So we're going to do it just a couple more times. So the other thing I've noticed is Junior's just really quick to eat his and then come get Sully's. So okay. So hopefully that made sense, what I was doing there. Okay, so Dan says, shirts making the background dark, may have to take it. Oh, nice. Yes. No, we aren't going to be doing that today. It's not that kind of show. Okay, so let's see. Okay, so repeat a few feet away. And I kind of just did that. But what this means is basically you're increasing the distance between yourself and the dog, so that they have to come just a little bit closer. They have to come from a further distance, I should say. Okay, so I'll show you that, and then we're going to kind of combine, here, we'll just do that one really quick, and then we have one more step, and then we're done. Okay, so here, so the dogs are kind of laying, you can't really see them. Here, let's try to do this. Hi, guys. And it's a little hard because I've got a microphone, so I'm just going to kind of walk over here. So Junior's kind of following me. So. Should have had my treats out. So can you see Sully? Take it, Sully. Yeah, he knows when there is something on the ground, like he's not allowed to take it. So I'll need to kind of work on that, but we're going to try it just a couple more times. Okay. So that's simply just increasing the distance between you and the dog. And so were having to walk, instead of just a foot away, they were having to walk, 3-4 feet away. So hopefully that I know, Sully is confused. So, Yeah, normally, and we've played the leave it game a lot. So now you're seeing a little bit of dilemma where he's having to kind of figure out what's the difference here between this and when anything else hits the floor. And so I will have to work with him. So you're seeing it real time, and I'm seeing it. And I didn't really consider that, but this is a really good, I think, illustration for all of you that you can see how small little things that we do can be interpreted by a dog very differently. And so, hopefully that's interesting to you. I love canine behavior stuff, so I find this interesting, and it'll be not really a challenge, but I will have to work with him one-on-one with really, a million reps of, well, not a million, but 100 reps of just whistle, treat hitting the floor. Whistle, treat hitting the floor. And literally just do it over and over and over again. And so I'll do it in this front room. I'll do it in the little room over there. I'll do it outside. I'll do it, in the living room. I'll do it in the kitchen. And so it'll just be a whole bunch of whistle, treat, whistle, treat, whistle, treat. And then, so for him, I think Junior's actually getting it because he doesn't really always listen to the leave it game anyway. So for him, it's like, for free game. Okay. So let's just do a couple of questions, and then we will go ahead and go to the next step, which I'll show you the dogs. It may not be perfect, but we'll show you. Okay. So Lisa says, this is so helpful. Thank you for taking the time to show. Oh, you're very welcome. Why couldn't you hand them the treat? Debbie asks. So that's a really, really good question. You can, so it's a little bit of difference between like classical conditioning and pairing something and delivering a treat based on behavior, like a more operant conditioning kind of training method. And so my thought is that it's an easier pairing between the sound of the whistle and a treat hitting the floor. They can differentiate that. Whereas when I'm handing them treats, I'm handing them treats for some behavior. That's a reward that I am giving them for some behavior that they're doing. And so I'm trying to differentiate with this recall that's not what it is. I don't care how the dogs come to me. They can run to me. They can sniff flowers on the way. They can do basically whatever they want because I'm not rewarding their behavior. I'm simply saying that when you hear this whistle, there will be treats hitting the floor at my feet. And so it really is simply a matter of pairing versus a reward for behavior. I don't know if that makes any sense, but you can do that. I just feel like for most of the training, like if I'm doing, sit down, I'm handing treats for all of that stuff because it really is their behavior. And so anyway, let me know, Debbie, if that doesn't make sense. I would just encourage you because I know that a lot of people will probably just be handing the treats, and I don't necessarily think that that's wrong. I think it may be a stronger pairing if it's treats hitting the floor, but you could play with both. I don't think that that's necessarily wrong. I think you just always want to be rewarding the recall, which was something that I think you had asked as well, where, and Faye, I know, asked, do you have to pay them every time? And yeah, I think you do. And I gave an example of the dogs with the ice cubes in our freezer. And absolutely, I even noticed with that drawer that while they have a very strong, recall when I open that drawer because they want the ice, very strong. They could literally be fast asleep. And if I walked in there right now and opened that drawer, the dogs would wake up and come in there. But I've noticed that when I just get sick and tired of them begging and drooling at the freezer drawer, like I stopped doing it for a couple of days. In other words, I open the freezer drawer and I fill the cups with ice, but I don't give them, a treat. I'll notice after 2 or 3 days of doing that, they just stay laying down. So it can be depending on whatever it is that you're teaching, over time, you can lose the association if they start to not get paid, because there has to be that connection between the two. Kara says, would it work better if you just gave it to them from your hand. Yeah, so hopefully that makes sense. And you can try that, Kara. I know you're working with a puppy, so you can try. I would urge you to maybe try the treats hitting the floor, and then as the dog has the connection already, then you maybe start delivering the treats from your hand. And maybe you do it that way, that you make the connection really tight and really reliable first with the treats hitting the floor. In other words, I'm not rewarding your behavior. I'm just saying, when you hear this, you better come running because it's amazing. So I think as long as you have that association built, then both you probably don't have to have 100% of the time a payout, because sometimes you just won't be able to. I would say it should be close to 90 or 95% though, in my opinion. And then you can maybe start delivering the treats from your hand if you wanted to. Okay, so awesome, Faye. So she says, I worked with Zeus yesterday and he did really good. That's awesome. It makes sense, but with us, I don't think I can do the drop treats because Ginger will sometimes resource guard. Oh, very good point. So you know what then I would train the dogs separately, first of all, and maybe get that recall really solid with Ginger alone with the treats hitting the floor. Maybe do it that way. Do a handful of repetitions and maybe mix it up. So when she's with the other dogs, you hand deliver treats. And when she's alone, you do treats on the floor. I don't think there's anything wrong with that because essentially you just have to pair the two together. Okay, so let's just, let's move on really quick. I know, I always go over. So, okay, so reset the dog and repeat. Now, I probably should have done this when we were kind of in the thick of it and the dogs were awake, but we're going to try to kick them into gear. Okay, come here. Okay, Jojo. Oh, okay. So I'm going to just do it a few times and then I'll show you what that reset looks like and hopefully you can see me. Okay. So I think the other thing that Sully's doing is he's looking at Junior and he's watching Junior eat the treat first, which is what he does when they eat food. So basically here's what the reset would look like. So I'm just going to kind of walk away a little bit. I'm going to do this. So now the downside is that both dogs are looking at the treats. So I tapped my leg just a little bit. Okay, so here's what the reset would look like. So basically I would toss a treat and to kind of get Sully away. Here. Okay, and then I would walk a little bit further away and hopefully you can see me. I know I'm right behind all those words. And so now basically the dogs had to walk, 10 feet. So Sully is he's waiting for Junior. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just come over here. Do the same thing. So June is totally getting it. Sully's just sitting there. Okay, so now I'm going to do it again. Sully. So you see, I hope you guys can see this. So Sully's literally looking at me and looking at the treats and waiting for me to say it's okay. So we're going to work on Sully. Yes. We're going to work on Sully. So, but Junior, I think, understood it. So hopefully that, walking further away. So essentially all you're going to do is you're going to have the treat. You're going to blow your whistle, drop the treats at the floor. And then right then you're going to toss a treat about 5 feet away. And then you're going to walk in the opposite direction of where you just threw that treat. That was essentially what I was trying to show you. It's a little hard in this small room, but let me just see if I can get Sully to do it here. So now he's eating the treat. I feel bad. Poor Sully is such a gentleman and he's so sensitive that he waits for June and he is so obedient that it's almost a downside when you want a more conditioned response from him. He takes a little more time. So what I would do is I would literally do this so what I would recommend you guys do is do this whistle treat or Sully Jr. come, which is the way I would normally say it. If they weren't searching for treats on the floor, they would probably be listening to me. But yeah, so I would do this, 5 times a day if you can, just a couple of minutes, a few times a day. So 5 times a day if you can, but less, but if that's all you can do. But essentially I would just, a handful of times a day, just grab a couple of treats kind of without the dog seeing them, because you don't really want them looking at the treats and hanging on the treats. You really want them to pair this with something surprising on the floor. Not that they're they're watching the treats essentially. So you don't really want them to do that. Hi, Junior. So hopefully that makes sense. Let me see if there are any questions. Okay. So, all right. So here is the last couple of points that I wanted to make. If I can get my mouse. Okay. So context, distractions, and rules. So, I kind of already covered the rules just in the context of what we just went over. What I mean by context here though is keep in mind, that you want to be training not just in your living room. So doing this right here is not indicative of them being able to do a recall outside, as is that not being indicative or predictive of them doing a reliable recall out front. So it really is, you have to do it you have to teach this you have to pair the whistle with the treats hitting the floor in as many different scenarios as you can possibly think of. So I would do it upstairs, and I would do it in our bedroom. I would try it in multiple different places where every single time they hear that whistle, the treats are hitting the floor. And so the whistle is awesome because the sound carries. So it can be loud. There could be, lawnmowers and stuff going off outside. And if the dogs hear the whistle, and this is my whole desire with the whistle, was that they would come running. And so I'll be working on that. And maybe what I'll do is a follow-up video with their recall. Let's fast forward a month after I've had a chance to really work on the whistle, and let's see what that recall looks like. And maybe that's what I'll do. You guys just maybe put in the comments if that sounds good to you, and maybe what you guys do. If you're in the Big Dog Mom community, I would love for you to do the same thing. If this is something that you're going to work on, I would absolutely love to see videos of it. So let's see what it looks like today, and let's fast forward a month, and let's just kind of check in with one another and see what that recall looks like. So, and then distractions, and that is simply, let's have some other people in here as I'm doing it, and let's have them be distracting. And so how many different, because that's essentially what you're doing when you actually need them to come, is that there are distractions. There are things pulling your dog's attention that are pulling them away from you. And so how strong is the association between the whistle and amazing things happening at mom's feet with how tempting it is to be playing with another dog or chasing a rabbit across the street and, that kind of stuff. Situations where you really want a recall. You want your dog to be coming to you right then. So hopefully that makes sense. That was essentially what I had today. If you guys have any questions, you can shoot them in the comments, or, and I'll circle back and I'll make sure that I address them. But, thank you, Faye. So that she says that would be a good idea. Zeus is really easily distracted. Yeah, all of them are. And I think it's varying based on the dog, because as I said, Sully is super highly trainable and not as distracted as Junior. Junior just goes after whatever he wants when he wants, and he's like a bulldozer. He just, in a very sweet, lovable way, but he's much harder to train. So, which is odd because he totally picked up on this. So, but anyway, let's circle back in maybe a month, and I'll do another video just to show you kind of how they're coming along with the whistle specifically. And I might end up getting that Pamela Dennison video as well. So maybe check out the links in the blog post, because there are a bunch of other stuff. And I know, Patricia McConnell, who's one of my absolute favorite, canine behaviorists and trainers, she has a bunch of resources for reliable recalls as well. So maybe check those out. And then if you find anything that you really like, as well, you let me know. There aren't many resources that teach this specific method. So most of them are more operant conditioning where it's using a leash and all of that stuff. So I would just urge you to give this a try and see how it goes and let me know how it goes. All right, guys, that's it for today. Sorry we went a little over, but if you have any questions, you just let me know. Yeah, Millie is a puppy, so she's going to be easily distracted, but I think you get a handle on this now and it will pay dividends as she's like, the huge girl that she's going to be. So I think, Kara, you've got a handle on it and she's going to a trainer. I think you're doing everything right, but maybe just try this at home and it would just be something fun and something super easy that your son could do. So she has a little son that's very young. And so he could easily understand, okay, so you blow the whistle and you drop some treats on the floor and let's see Millie get so excited. So maybe that would be something that you could try as well. Enlist the help of your son, and this would be an easy trick that he could teach her and see some, success, and he would be excited about doing it. I know my kids love trying to train the dogs, so I will definitely enlist their help as well. So that's, the whole context thing, right? So does it work? It's not just when mom blows the whistle, it's when other people are blowing the whistle that treats are hitting the floor. So keep that in mind. All right, guys, happy Friday. Have a wonderful weekend. I will talk to you guys soon. Take care. Bye.